Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Make Invoice Processing Easier, the top 3 steps experts take to simplify and automate AP processes. My name is Nicole Schmeida, Senior Marketing Specialist here at DocuWare, and I'll be moderating today's session and the Q&A at the end. Today's main presenter is Mike Reno, Regional Sales Director here at DocuWare. He has 15 years experience equipping companies of all sizes with document management and workflow automation solutions, so it's great that we have him on the line today. Now let's go over today's agenda. So, on the left you can see he'll start out with going over what are the current challenges AP departments are facing today that you might be facing as well. Then he'll go over the 3 steps that you can take now to automate and simplify those processes. He'll go into a live introductory demo so you can see it in action, get a feel for it. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A and your next steps after the session. So thank you again. With that, I'll pass it off to Mike.
Thanks, Nicole. We appreciate everyone joining us today for this webinar. I wanted to start talking about what you see on the screen right now, which is a whole bunch of paper, and see if this may feel familiar or if it looks familiar to you. Because sometimes when we get going into our day-to-day activities, we forget about some of the detail stuff and how long it takes to go look and how long it takes to place items for us to find later on in the future. Especially when it comes to the end of the year, that's when a lot of us really start to get stressed out when we have audits coming up, or at the end of the month when we have a lot of information that's due when we do matching of our documents, or just trying to finalize the invoicing for the end of the month. But did you know, according to a recent Ardent Partners AP Matrix That Matter report from 2023, it says by automating some of your processes, you can spend about 40 to 90% less than if you stick with your manual paper-based processing. If you think about it, they came up with it by actually looking at how much it costs you per invoice and how many days it takes. And on average, they're seeing it would take $13.11 to pay an invoice, and when you can really reduce that down to $3.12 per invoice. Or if you want to look at it from a day frame, that's about 19 days worth of waiting to get it paid versus about 3.7 to 4 days. It takes a lot to keep the wheel moving and keep all of us on the same track. And that's why DocuWare wants to help you bring that efficiency forward to your department or to yourself at your own company. Now think about it. Think about if you have automated all of your processes, we can get rid of all of that clutter on the desk, right? And now you can have a clean work environment. You can be set up the way you want it to. And also you can have a clear mind to get through your day to make sure you don't miss any task or anything else that's important. And that's why we bring you here today. DocuWare is here to show you how we can automate that process, so you can take back control of your work and get your job done, and even more with the expanding capability of DocuWare. Now, when we take a minute to look at what your current process and how it may work today, some of us are storing paper in filing cabinets. We're printing it out and then it's going in the cabinet for review later. We also have our emails, whether we're inside of our Exchange, Outlook, Lotus, whatever email system you're using, you can now have access to your emails, and now just instead of storing them in there, they can come to life a little bit more. We have file shares that are out there. We have other programs that we use to integrate with that we need to put data into. And with all that document origins, they lead to the creation of this information silos that we're stuck playing in. So if we want to go find an invoice, we may have to look in our paper cabinet. We may have to look in our email or in some stored files on our computer, or even have to log into our other program like accounting program to find what we're looking for. When we implement a DocuWare solution, it now becomes the one go-to central spot. This is where automated invoice processing solutions come in, because now we can help auto store some of these documents that are coming in from multiple places. And we can also integrate in at the very end with different applications. So this way you have the same consistent data across the board for all of the employees and the business together. Now we do that by giving you 3 main benefits that experts use to begin this process of automating your AP department. And we start by saying goodbye to manual data entry and hello to automated invoice processing, starting with capture. When we start bringing in all of these documents and invoices from these multiple different sources, the intelligent indexing is going to help us read our document and know how we need to store it, where it needs to go, if there's any workflow to it as well. Once we determine how it's going to be in our system, we have to put it into a secure storage location. So let's set your team up for success, right? That way everyone's on the same page, they're working out of the same security set, and it helps you stay compliant and make auditing time stress-free since it's all in one place. It also gives you the peace of mind to know that you can access your data anytime, anywhere, and from any device, knowing that it's stored in a secure manner. And with that also, you can now bring in your automated workflow processes and be on the go to run your digital invoices through. No need to wait for time to pass for someone to approve an invoice. This now can be done in a more efficient time frame with notifications. No more having to send an email and waiting for a response. DocuWare can do that part for you and get your notification to you so you can focus on other projects that are more money generating for the company. And we do all this by bringing in DocuWare as your 24/7 digital employee. From the time of cutting down the manual entry of capturing this information automatically, routing it through different workflows for approvals or codings. That way we can get this approval time dropped by 70, 80%, right? And then also we have to go through any audit or just preparation of internal audit for review. We want to reduce that time as well. Now, I've said a lot about how we're going to do this. I want to show you a quick high-level overview of what DocuWare is going to bring to the table in order to accomplish this for us. So now on the screen, DocuWare has come up, and you can see I already have a couple documents sitting in what's called my document tray. My document tray is going to guide us on how we're going to capture this information off of these invoices and where they're going to go on our business rules that are placed behind them. You can also see a color code that's placed on here that's alerting us that we are reading these documents, we're pulling information off of them automatically so that way we can increase the speed of us storing a document in our system. And we store them in our system just by clicking on the ones that we're ready to work on, and then we do what we call a store dialog. Now, intelligent indexing will let us know with the light bulb that we're going to grab this information automatically for us, and it's going to give us a preview of where we're grabbing the information off the document. In this case, this dialog told me there was an invoice in, so we're going to go ahead and denote that within our field piece. But you can also see everything else has been auto-captured that may be important as a field on the document itself. So here, if I was going to pull anything into my ERP system, I'm going to want my subtotal, my tax, my freight, and my total. And then I'm going to want any order numbers or POs or invoice tie-ins, customer information that I can to tie this with what I'm trying to accomplish. Now, the other important piece here is the name Rapid Transport is also being pulled from database selections. So we don't always have to look at the DocuWare to pull it. We can also have a list that says, hey, here are the approved vendors that you can select within the database itself. And now we can make that selection as well. If it's not actually in our system, this is where exceptions happen in the workflow to do that verification for us. Once we're ready to store the document and see that the information is good, all we have to do is hit the button store, and now the next document is ready for us to review. On this one, everything's come up green for us to say, hey, I'm pretty confident that I have all the information, but now you can see there's a new piece down here, what's called line items. The other side that we're going to bring to within our document system is this viewer, so we can view up and down on the document. So now I can come down to my line item pieces and verify this information is correct. But let's go ahead and take for example, if this was not here and we wanted to add this into a piece for us to capture. Any field on here can be captured by what we call one-click index. So what we're going to do is take our mouse and just kind of hover over the information we want to grab and just select that and have it drop over into our field on the left-hand side. And as I go along here, I can now capture everything that it's requiring me to fill this piece out. that captured. Now our little purple button here is going to say autofill that out for us. And now we don't have to continue clicking onto the document. DocuWare now has filled out that information for us. And again, once we know the information is correct, we're ready to just hit store, and that will now continue on its path and journey through the DocuWare process. At any time, if there's any field that you don't feel is correct or was incorrect, you can always come up and hit the X on side of here, and it can now delete it. You can also verify where it's pulling that information by the halo that it puts over the information on the right-hand side. And again, if it's not there, all we have to do is one-click index, and it will go ahead and bring that over, and we can hit store. Once you have the information that you have ready to work in the store, it has now put it into our DocuWare system. There's a few alerts happening up here that are coming to us that we'll come to play with later, but for now, let's take a look at how they got stored into our system itself. So when I come over here to my search, you can see now I have different cabinets built to where I can search through and what I'm looking for. And it can either go into specific searches like memos or invoices or just a general detailed search overall. But also the index fields or these are over here are still the same for us as we stored. So now as we come in and make a selection for a search, we can always come down and see a drop down of our list of what's inside the cabinet and do that search, but you can also start typing as well. That way you can also pull up that information from a drop down from that drop down there as well. Once you make one selection, the rest of the fields start filtering themselves. So automatically, you don't have to worry about making a further selection, but you can see what's inside of your system automatically. In this case, we know there's only one company number assigned to that. And then if there's any invoices inside the system, they now will start populating. We can make the selection and search. So you can get very granular with your search on what you want to find and dig down real deep, or you can get very generic and just use a one-over search to find for what's in that search field itself. All of these fields are fully configurable by how we want to search by and what we want to build by. You would just work with your team members to design that piece out for you. Now, the other thing about this data as we're capturing it, it's not just for the search and store piece. It's also over here inside of our dashboard of our documents, as I like to call, or the lists. Inside of your list is giving you information that's happening that's important to your role within the DocuWare system. And right now, since I am the accountant, I am worried about what POs are open and what active invoices we have out there as well. So let's take a look at those lists, starting with the purchase orders. When we have our purchase orders in here, we can always bring up the document to review what it is, and we can see the information from the PO number and what's been requested on the right-hand side in our viewer. It also gives us the ability to make any notes or annotations at this point using our menu bar that we have built into our viewer right here in the middle. So if I'm needed to put a note on here for later, we can go ahead and put note for later, just like a sticky note would sit on top of a document. If there's something that needs to be highlighted that we want to point out or make sure it's not missed, we can do that as well. At any time, you don't have to save these features. You can always turn them on or off. These are just overlays to make sure that the information can be seen now or later. So if you ever need to send this out either by email or any other by Teams in 365, you can always do that by doing it with the original document or with or without the annotations. You can also look at the history of the document when you're inside of your list or your search field and see how the audit trail has been built through this document, anywhere from your workflow to your document piece. We're going to show that in just a little bit as well with the invoice. But as we're here to show, this is where we can start digging in and pulling a lot of information for what we're looking at in our document. Even using any kind of related field matching here, we can have shortcuts to do that for us to look for document information. As you can see in our next segment we have here is invoices open for 2 days. Using dates inside of our capture field, DocuWare is going to go ahead and start tracking that for you as well. So not only stuff that may be coming up due, or it could be other stuff that has now gone past that is now expired and waiting to be completed as well. But you can also see the status of where it's sitting, so that way from a high level, you know where it sits in that process and what may need to be done in order to complete that process as well. The main piece as everything's coming in and it's coming into our cabinet and you're getting your reportings is actually what's happening within the workflow or your business process of that document itself. So down here, I have a few bars that are opening up, and you can see that they have some numbers here like 0.3 and there's a 6 here. What this is saying is it's giving us our workflow processes and what we need to do in order to process a document within our workflow itself. So right here, we have a verify invoice data with a reconciliation review, which gives me a task window here at the bottom that I now can make different decisions with and review what's going on. Already out of the beginning, we have a match status deviation, the quantity, and this is giving me the alert to what I need to do and what I could do, or if I want to reject it, I could as well. Our decision tree helps us in the workflow to make those decisions to push everything through for where we need it to be. We can even go as far as adding different GL codes and cost centers to these in the workflow. It just depends how your process is set up and what we need to architect for you during your discovery process. But ultimately, everything's going to finally come into completion once we get everyone's approvals and everyone's all the codes assigned to it. And once we go into completion, we can do that final step of the decision of what needs to be done. And here, just like in any piece of the workflow, we can do any kind of related searches for duplicates, multi-way matches. In this case, we did match with an invoice and a PO. So our US still is pulling back all the information that's relatable. And since all three matched up, we did go into our completion tab for our team to review at the very end. Once we get to that part, the decision table can be anything that needs to be happening over here to make that final piece go through, and then you can just hit confirm. At the very end, everything now is ready to be finally exported, and in our dashboard of our document reporting tool here, you can see US still has now populated into this report. When we go into the history of this one, you can see now we have many different pieces into the history or audit trail of the document. We can even show the automatic ones, so that way everything is pulled out. When you go into a little drop down, it gives you more details for what that piece was, and it shows what really happened in that moment. And it also has all the steps along the way that made the different workflow steps that occurred for different validation and approval sets as well. Now, this last invoice phone wizard is going to show us one more step that I wanted to put through and show, which is going to be called a parallel approval. When we bring this one into our taskbars, what it's going to allow us to do now is say, hey, I need to send this invoice out into different approvers to get different processes inside of this one invoice approved. So here, when I scroll down into my bar at the bottom, I have my table data for my GL codes and my cost center set up. And you can see that DocuWare automatically brought in this information because we've had it in here before. We've even done the split for the 25-75. That way, if you have a different style or percentage that needs this to be split by between different codes, cost centers or GL codes, you can do that, and DocuWare can help with the math automatically as well. At this point, once we confirm that information is correct, we are now going to send that out to those multiple cost centers to get approvals to pay those different centers out of their bucket. Now you can see I have a number 4 task where it says cost center approval, and it's going to say approve the invoice. And now it's my job to go ahead and review the information so I can approve the invoice at this time. Here we have a stamp that says where this document has been. Is now we have a visual workflow instead of going into the actual history of it. We have a visual workflow that allows us to see where the document has been. Decision tree, information's correct. Now this employee can go ahead and hit confirm and approve that, and that document will now move along through the steps all the way into that final completion of ready to export. Now that's just a very high level of DocuWare and what we can bring to the table for invoice processing, because the next few steps all depend on how your system and your company is set up, whether we're going into a certain ERP system, whether we need to build more approvals, different workflows. This is where the configuration development comes in for us to modify and make the system yours, and you can take control again of how your processes run, especially electronically. The other really nice part I want to talk about is we don't take a lot of time to get those steps done and get you to the point and up and running. We want to get you there in just a few days, and building this on our pre-configured solution of invoice processing allows us to give you this information you saw today in a form to where you can be up and running in just a few days. It includes all of the intelligent indexing, getting the data ready for export and pushing the data out, bringing in these smart adaptive workflows so that way we can route our invoices, and making sure your business continuity is still flowing, and then relieving the stress of any headaches or any other features that may be struggling within your day-to-day processes at your company. But you don't have to take my word for it. Nicole's going to come back on and we're going to show you someone who has adapted this and is taking this to the next level using DocuWare and the workflow process. Nicole?
All right. Yes, thanks, Mike. Thanks for those great insights and a first look demo. That was super helpful. And yeah, I wanted to share, this is one of the case studies in your handouts, but I really like the quote here from the key contact at a company that uses DocuWare. So this is from Lawrence Paper Company. They've been doing the same things, same way for 30 to 40 years, a lot of paper pushing. Perhaps they've been so used to doing, the process manually, but they wanted to be more efficient. I guess they had a moment where they realized, in order to grow, increasing employees, they needed to free up that physical and mental space, right? So with DocuWare, they were able to go from processing only 15 invoices a day to 100 invoices a day. So that's about a 6x increase in their efficiency. They also had a big shredding party, got rid of cabinets, freed up office space. Again, kind of going back to what Mike was sharing in the beginning, just freeing up that physical space also frees up a lot of mental space. So you can have clarity to focus on, essential tasks and new tasks that are adding more value to your company's processes. And if we head to the next, yep. So again, with the handouts in the handout section, you'll be able to download this short and sweet tip sheet to help you, figure out what are the essential features that are needed to automate your invoice processing. So there are many solutions available. You just saw DocuWare today. So we just wanted to provide you with this handy tip sheet to make sure, the solutions that you're looking at meet the criteria you would need to get that 360 automation and efficiency unlocked at your company. And we do have a lot of great user reviews at sites like Gartner, G2 Crowd, Capterra. We have over 200, so these are great for you to read and check out what are real users saying. And we have a lot of certifications from software and hardware vendors. So I'll include this in the email I send to you later today. And because of these awards, we're happy to say that we have 17,000 customers around the world that use DocuWare every day. So from small companies to big, from various industries, they rely on DocuWare every day to securely house their documents and automate their most important processes. So we hope after the session today, you'll be joining our digital user community as well. And don't forget, if you want to get a boosted entry in order to increase your chances to win, definitely complete that short survey that will pop up at the end of the webinar. And if you only remember one thing from today, just remember, again, like Mike said, DocuWare is your new 24/7 AP digital team member. It's secure, compliant, and always working for you. So it's working around the clock when you're not working. If you remembered, he showed like kind of that document audit trail. Multiple things are happening even when you're not in there, checking and confirming things. So we'll end today. We'll start with Q&A. Go ahead and type in any questions you might have. But I wanted to share with you how to continue the conversation with your authorized DocuWare partner. So you would have received a webinar invitation from them. Definitely feel free to reply to that or use the contact information at the bottom to get started. They'll help you out with more information and give you a personalized demo. And if you have any questions at any time, you can always email contact.us@docuware.com and we'll put you in touch with the right person. So definitely email that at any point.